Hey guys, welcome back to EarsFirst. This is going to be another craft tutorial of sorts. If you guys are anything like Jake and I, when you go to the parks, one of the must-have souvenirs that you have are your mugs. So this is just a small collection of the mini mugs that we have that are Disney themed. Now the problem is, some of them are really special. We keep them stored away. My Moana one, for example, because of the hook handle, I just worry that it would not do well with everyday use. So it stays in the curio cabinet behind me. But Little Mermaid gets used on the regular. So the problem I've run into, it takes up a lot of cabinet space because they're usually pretty good size mugs. What I'm working on today is a tutorial for making your own coffee mug display. And I'm trying to do a little bit of a twist on it. This one's going to be, of course, Disney themed. All right, so I went to Home Depot. You can go whatever store you have nearby you, as long as they have lumber, because that's the big thing that you're gonna need. I got a 7-foot long 1x4 of red oak that I'm gonna cut into segments for this project. And I also got these brass cup hooks. There's 25 in the pack. Total spend at Home Depot was $26.64. Price is gonna vary depending on what type of wood you use and where you were located in the country. Next I went to Hobby Lobby, and again, any craft store that you have nearby you can go to and should be able to get what you need. For this I got a gel medium. This is a Liquitex gel medium, and then I got a thing of Mod Podge in antique that's going to go over the top of a picture, and I got some of these little foam doohickeys for spreading the different substances onto the board. Total at Hobby Lobby, $20, $21. So right now I've got about 50 bucks into this project. My last stop for this project was a picture from the park. You can use whatever photograph you have and are in love with that you think would make a good background for the storage shelf. Not really a shelf, rack maybe. What you need to do for this project to work: go to Kinko's, Office Depot, Staples, anywhere that you have near you that does printing. Have your picture ready. Some places use a jump drive. You can email it to a lot of stores. That's how I went to Office Depot, Office Max, and I was able to just email it to the store email, and they could pull it up. So the picture that I have, one straight from my iPhone. Spaceship Earth from the World Showcase. Now, about the picture, do not get photo paper. You want a regular paper, and you want a laser printer. What we're going to do for this project is I'm going to cut my board into 3 pieces. I'm going to glue them together so that they make one rectangle, and I'm pre-measured the approximate width of the final product, and that's how I figured out how big of an image I want. You can make it slightly smaller if you want. You can make it a little bit bigger if you want to cover the whole surface, and you can just kind of center the image however you want. So those are the supplies that you're going to need. The photograph, I got a 28 by 10.5 picture, standard paper, color print, and it was just a little under $8. So altogether, about 50 bucks into this project. Hopefully it looks good. The only thing that I don't have that you will need, and I'll address that when I get closer to the end, is something to attach it to the wall. So I'm going to figure out how heavy it's going to be, and then I'll try to decide what's going to be the best. So the last thing you want is to create this thing, start hanging your mugs, and then it fall and break all of your fantastic mugs. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'll film as I go, kind of give you an idea of the process that I'm using, and I have no idea if it's going to work or not because I've never done this before. So we'll see how. Okay, I'm in my outside building. I'm getting ready to cut my board. A few things that I wanted to tell you about. I'm not going to actually film cutting because it's super loud, and I don't think you guys need to see that part too much. Safety tips. First off, safety glasses. When you're using one of these, sawdust, wood chips, all sorts of stuff can get kicked back. You don't want that getting in your eye. Secondly, closed-toed shoes. This is not a task for flip-flops. Because again, if you lose control of the board and it falls, you don't want it to land on your foot. To just give you an idea of what I'm working with here, this is the piece of oak. I got the nice grade lumber because I figured since I'm hanging up on the wall, I want it to be pretty. First thing I did was I measured 7 feet on the board. And you see this little tiny piece here? That's what's extra over 7 feet. So this way, I'm going to cut this off first, make sure I have a nice even piece, and it will ensure that I'm working with 7 feet and not 7 and a little bit more. That way my boards are all even. And on the other end, I've measured a line for the 28 inches that I want to cut. What I'm going to do is I'll cut the first piece and then I'll just line it up. That way they're all equal. And then I'll show you guys what it looks like once I have it all cut down. So back in the air conditioning, I've gotten the 3 boards cut out and I've laid them out the way that I want them to look on the wall. Just to give you an idea what the finished product should look like. I'm going to have this image transferred onto this wood, and then we'll have the pegs for the different mugs. The next thing I'm going to do is join these boards together. I'm going to do that with a Craig jig. So let me do a few of those and then I'll show you what that looks like. I'm set up out here in the garage. I've got my Craig jig and a clamp. You can get a clamp that's special made for the Craig jig, but I have this one and it seems to work out just fine, so I've gone with that. To show you how this is set up if you haven't used one of these before, the idea behind it is you're going to make pocket screws, so they drill holes diagonally into the wood. And you're going to take and then put one of your self-tapping screws through the pre-drilled holes into the other board. I don't know how to really explain it any better than that, but you set it up to the depth of your wood. So this is 3/4. Let's see if I can, you see the line with the arrows, you make sure that that's set up to point towards the depth of the wood, the thickness of the wood that you are drilling. And it comes with a drill bit and there's a collar on here. You want to also adjust that to make sure, and there's a guide plate inside the case. So I'm going to go ahead and get a couple of holes drilled into this piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 and 2, so 2 on either end on the outside 2 boards, and then be drilling directly into the center board. And I'm going to put some wood glue in between on the joint because it's all getting sanded down, so a little bit of adhesive, I can get that off with sandpaper. Okay, not pretty because I didn't properly anchor down my board, and I can sand this up. This is going to be the back side, so I'm not that worried about how pretty this is. It should be functional. I'm going to join these. First, I'm going to take some wood glue. I'm using Gorilla Glue, but whatever kind of wood glue you have. I'm going to run a thin bead down the side of the board where I'm going to join the 2. And then I'm going to use the screws that came with this packet. It's a really nice thing about these Craig sets is it actually tells you. So if you're using 3/4 inch stock, which is what I am using, that this is the screw you want. And they're nice. They're self-tapping, which means it helps to pull the boards together really nice and taut, which is going to prevent me having to clamp this while the glue's drying. So this isn't my prettiest work, but like I said, this is the back side, so I'm not as concerned about it. But I've got 2 screws here, 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here, so all 4 corners. The center is attached. And as you can see, there's no indication from the front that we've screwed into the wood, because it does it at an angle, so you don't have breakthrough, as long as you have it set to the correct depth or thickness. If you've had any spots where the glue is starting to kind of bleed through, just give it a quick wipe down, especially if you're using the Gorilla Wood Glue, because it does expand. Now I'm going to take a palm sander and just go over this. It's a little uneven, but I think it's going to kind of add a little character to it. Even along the edges, it's a little bit uneven. But I'm going to hit these corners where the wood's a little bit burred. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And then we'll be ready to start the transfer of the image. Alright, I've brought the board back inside. It's been lightly sanded. I took a damp cloth and went over the surface of it just to make sure there wasn't any excess sawdust. right, I really don't know what I'm doing. So hopefully this is going to be enough. I did a couple of different coats. I'm sorry for my finger. And then I just ran all the way down the length of the board to try to smooth it out. So now I'm going to transfer my picture onto the board. I've applied the picture to the back of the board. I gotta find something to smooth it out with. The tutorial suggested using a credit card or something, flat edge, to run along it and make sure you have good surface contact. That's all I can do for today. So I'm gonna let this dry overnight and then we'll pick it back up with the unveiling of the image. Unveiling? That was weird. I pronounced that so weird. Anyhow, pick it back up tomorrow after this is dried for the unveiling of the image. Last step for the image before we coat it is to get the paper backing off the tutorial that I found. So you just use a wet washcloth and you're going to start just rubbing on the paper and it should come off in like pieces, I guess. I'm trying to think of a comparison. If ever you have washed a shirt that had a sticker on it, you know how it gets that peely looking after it comes out of the dryer? That's sort of what we're going for here. So you can start to see it coming up. I'm trying to do just a small corner so we can see if it was successful or not. Since I've never done this before, I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. I'm hoping that we end up with a nice picture.
If not, we'll try again.
Yep. Sand it down and repeat.
It almost looks like what you're doing is sanding.
Doesn't look promising right now, though.
I'm surprised it doesn't peel off.
It's just regular paper. So you're just going for the ink to transfer into the gel medium.
Oh, okay. I missed the first couple of steps. I wasn't here for it.
Okay, so it's a slow process, and I'm kind of doing it gradually because I don't want to accidentally wipe the image off. I've done that a little bit right here. But the good news is it is working. I don't know if you can see that, but there is Spaceship Earth right there in the middle. So I'm pretty happy so far. We'll see how it looks when I've got everything uncovered. But I'm thinking this is going to be pretty cool. So you're going to make a mess doing this.
A big mess.
It looks like that there's been a blizzard in our house.
Have a shop vac handy.
Yes, vacuum, highly recommended. It's coming along though. I'm gonna let it dry and then I'm gonna go over it again. The only thing that I'm seeing that makes me a little sad is, and maybe if I'd have used more of the gel medium, it would have picked up better. It doesn't look like I'm gonna have a lot of the blue for the sky. But that's fine. It's going to be more, it looks like a black and white image once it's transferred over. But the fact that it's transferred at all, I consider that a win because I've never done this before. Be careful when you are rubbing. Don't rub too hard because you can see there's a few spots where the images come up. Now, I'm going to use that to my advantage. I was telling Jake I'm probably going to use some sanding with a Dremel and just go over it in a few spots just to give it a weathered look. That's the beauty of crafts is you can kind of make it up as you go along, and if it doesn't turn out quite right, sometimes you can salvage it by taking it in a slightly different direction. So we're going to let this dry and hit it a few times, and I'll show you what the end product is after I've gotten all the paper back. All right, I've done a second round of wiping with the wet towel to remove the paper, and it's dried a little bit, so you can see that there is still a little bit of paper left in a few spots. I'm going to let it dry so I can see where I need to hit it again. And then see if it needs another round after that. But ooh, it's coming along pretty well. You can kind of see where I transferred the image. The edges aren't exactly even. So probably what I'm going to do is just take and do some light sanding to give it kind of that worn look on the edges. So it looks like it's on purpose. Ha 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 ha. Alright, so this is related. You found a t-shirt you want? What have you found? I can't. It's glary.
Oh, you can't see it?
Hold on. Let's see what we've got. Oh, it's Mickey through the years. That's pretty cool.
Have you read that too?
Alright, so I have done as much of the paper removal as I'm going to do. There may be a little bit more on here that I could get, but honestly, I'm happy with how it looks right now. It's way more distressed look than I thought it was going to be, and kind of add to that, I took some fine grained sandpaper and went over it very lightly to around the edges, kind of rough it up a little bit. So the next step is to apply a sealant And for that, I am using Mod Podge in an antique matte finish. Depending on what kind of look you're going for, you could do different finishes of the Mod Podge. They have just a plain matte. They also have glossy. So depending on what you want it to look like. But we're just going to take it and we're going to go over and it's going to dry clear. So just go over the entire picture, and this is going to help to seal your image so that you don't have to worry about it getting rubbed or scraped off. So I'm going to do that. And you can kind of see I'm just going over it in a nice thin layer. And once I'm done with that, I will go ahead and start attaching the hooks for the mug. Alright, so I'm finally finishing up the coffee mug rack. I've attached my fasteners to the back to mount it to the wall. So I went with, these are D-ring hangers. I got them from Walmart for like $2.50. It comes in a pack of 2, and then there's going to be a wire that goes from one to the other to hang it onto. And then to mount it onto the wall itself, I got, just to be on the safe side, this drywall mount. Holds up to 40 pounds. These are high and mighty. Got these at Walmart as well. I think it was like $5 for this pack. So I'm going to go ahead and get the back part installed, and I'm going to screw the hooks into the front. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Alright, I've got a few of my hooks in. One thing that'll make this easier, if you have a drill, go ahead and mark where you want your hooks to go. I'm doing every other Sharpie mark on here. I've kind of tested it with the mugs to see how it would fit. But just do a small pilot hole. That way it's easier to get your screw started. So there it is, hanging up on the wall. The high and mighty drywall hangers that I got were really, really easy to work with. I did end up going about 3 inches apart on each hook. I had it about 1.5 inches initially that I had marked out. Then I went with 3 inches. No, that's actually, this is 4.5 inches apart for each hook. Turned out that it was just not far enough apart. Maybe 6 inches, I can't remember now. But I had 9 hooks up there and ended up taking every other one out because the mugs were actually touching each other. So this project is probably one of my more creative endeavors as far as originality goes. I took a few different tutorials for a few different projects and kind of melded them into one for what I wanted to do. I wish I had a bigger board to work with so I could fit more mugs. A few things that you might want to consider if you're going to use this for a mug holder to give it more of a Disney look. I did the picture of Epcot, but something else you could do if you wanted to do one giant square, and then if you have a table saw or something that you could use to cut out like a Mickey head, that would be something kind of neat to do with this. Honestly, I kind of wish that I had just kept it as a piece of art. It turned out really cool. So if that's something you're looking for, is like a unique way to use one of your Disney pictures, this isn't a bad idea doing the photo transfer onto the wood. I thought it turned out really well. If you're gonna do it as art, I would say just get a big slab of wood. Don't try to join boards together unless you really like that russet look where some of the picture rubs off, where mine weren't flush together, and at the seam between the boards, the image came off when I was taking off the paper. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed it. If you happen to try this out on your own, I'd love to see pictures of what it looks like. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. And like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you real soon.